Hey everybody, I'm Izzy and welcome back to the shop. So today we're doing a really fun project. We're going to build a bent piece of furniture using bendable plywood. Yes, that really is a thing. So what you see in front of me is a product called Bendable Plywood, or depending on what part of the country you're in, it could be Flexiboard, Wacky Wood, Wiggle Wood, or Bendy Board. And if you know of any other names for it, comment down below, let us know what it is. So this product comes in a 4x8 sheet, and you can get it so it bends the long direction of the 4x8 sheet or the short direction of the 4x8 sheet. In this case, it bends in the long direction. Now, I've used this product a lot over the years, and there's a lot of really fun things that you can do with it. Today, I'm going to show you how I made that simple little end table. Now, there's a handful of different ways that you can use this stuff, but first you need to start with a design. Now, once you have the design you want, you got to cut it out. You can do that on a bandsaw or a jigsaw or, dare I say it, a CNC. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is create a rabbet or a lip for that plywood to sit inside of. And to do that, we can just use a router. Or if we didn't have a router, we could just create a second form that sits slightly behind this edge and then nail that plywood to it, glue and nail it. So with our forms cut out and routered, so we have that little rabbet or rebate or however you like to call it, now we just need to put some glue in there and then go ahead and nail our bendy board into that form. You can cut off any excess with a jigsaw or whatever saw you want to use, and then just use a hand plane to level out the tops and bottoms. You can do it that way. You can do it with a jigsaw and a router and a sander and get some pretty cool results. But I use the CNC. Here's that 2-minute montage, and then we'll talk about the rest of the build. So after I got the body together, I need to use a flush trim bit on my router to level out the sides. Now before I can do that, I want to put some Bondo. In this case, that's what I'm using. It's Bondo, a filler that gets hard fast, and my favorite is Bondo. I've been using it for years on anything that's going to get painted. So I mixed up some Bondo and I covered the sides of the material and the staples that we use to put on the sides, and then sanded it flush or clean. Then I can take the whole thing over to my router table with a flush trim bit and treat all the edges. That's going to give me a nice clean edge all the way around. Next up is prepping it for paint. In this case, I'm using Bondo. I'm going to put it on all the surfaces, on the exterior surfaces where there was Bendy board. Now, Bendy board is a very soft, porous material, so it takes up a lot of primer and a lot of paint, and I don't want that to happen. So, quickly going to give it a nice skim coat of Bondo, then sand it out, and then it's ready for paint. Now before I put the final paint on, I'm going to put a couple coats of primer on. Now I'm spraying the primer and the paint on with the Q5 Platinum Series sprayer from Fuji. And I'll talk more about that in an upcoming video. But it made painting this thing a breeze. So while the finish is drying, I'm using my wall-mounted clamping system to glue up the top. I'm using 4 pieces of alder for this. One of those materials that I think is underrated. It's such a beautiful material and it's easy to work with. With the top glued up and the primer dry, I give it a light scuffing to paint it. Now here's where my camera battery dies and I did not get any footage of me actually spraying the paint on the piece. I'm sure a handful of you have been wondering what I'm going to do with the drawer. Now in this case I'm just going to go with a flat bottom. I'm not going to shape it to the piece with angled sides. Now this is going to make it a little bit easier for mounting in the carcass, which I'll show you here in just a minute. Now this is going to get glued in and stapled together because I'm just going to paint the whole thing. So to install the drawer slides, I'm not going to install the hardware into the cabinet and then onto this. I'm going to install the hardware directly onto this and the mounting brackets onto this, and then I'll install everything at one time. Now I've laid out where I want my drawer slides to be. Now these are side mount soft close drawer slides that I'm using as bottom mount slides. So I want to get the front of it even with the front of the drawer itself. And then I'm going to center it out. You can't see it, but I have a little mark here as to where I want the slide. So I'm going to go ahead and get that centered out and attach the first one. I'm sure that's nice square. And now I'm going to attach the second part of the slide to this fastener. Now this is just a piece of alder and I've got pocket holes on each side so I can attach it to the cabinet. But I'm going to do this first by attaching the drawer slide. And again, I want the front of the drawer slide to be pretty much even with where the cabinet's going to be, or where the drawer is going to be. Cut some spacers that are exactly the height I want. I'll set my drawer right on top of that and then slide the cabinet over it. And then my height will be already positioned. I just have to move it back and forth to get that absolutely perfect position. So one of my favorite ways to attach drawer faces to drawer boxes is to use speed tape. Usually just take 2 or 3 small pieces, put it right on the front. And this is a double-sided tape that is very sticky, so it'll hold the drawer front nice. So I'm just going to use a couple of shims to give myself some spacing. And once I have it right about where I like it, I'll put a bunch of pressure on the face just for a second. Then I can put a couple quick clamps on it just to give it some extra hold while I take the drawer out and put some screws in from the back to hold it and install the hardware. Gotta love soft close drawer slides. So these are side mounts, and I did put them on the bottom of the build, so that's going to take away from the amount of weight that they're going to hold. They're rated for 100 pounds. So having them on their side, we're not going to be able to put 100 pounds in here. There's no way we're getting 100 pounds in that little drawer anyway, so it'll be just fine. Something I do want to comment on, it's kind of a misnomer out in the world that it's 100 pounds per slide. It's really not. They're 100 pounds per pair of slides is what the rating is for. So I hope you enjoyed this build. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. It definitely helps. And again, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. We got lots more fun stuff coming down the pipe. So if you enjoyed this kind of build, let me know down in the comment section below. I'm always willing to do more stuff like this. It's a lot of fun working with Bendable Plywood. Anyway, I hope everybody's staying safe, and we'll talk to you all soon.